Wdkx, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. You had a question?
Yes, I have a question. I would like to know why this mayoral control cannot be proposed in a referendum in the next primary that's coming up. You will allow enough time for people to make a conscious decision, to have enough bantering to go back and forth, allow some wounds to heal, because this is going to be a volatile issue, what you're trying to do. You talk about Adam Urbanski and other unions having representation. People who went to go vote in November thought they had representation when they went to vote for the school board. To hear you to come back and say for mayoral control as one of the concessions, you have to rescind your vote. And no matter how you paint this picture, you're rescinding a vote. If you can pass forward this mayoral control without rescinding my vote, I'm behind you. You need to also consider the fact that you might not want to negotiate for your $120 million, the state mandate. Maybe you can use that as a little set feed to accomplish some of your programs that you want to start out with. Everyone has to put forth something to come up with something. And one thing we do know, what we have what we have right now, isn't quite working. But to have you to come on and cause more disruption and more animosity, it's not going to work. Children should not be a pawn in this whole thing. It's already being politicized. You got Joseph Morelli, who's refusing to hold the Democratic committee, and I am not a political person or any person that's out here protesting. I will come and show my face when I need to show it. I am a citizen. I am a citizen who follow politics, and I don't like what's going on. And I think a lot of people who are the folks who think they're smarter than the rest think a lot of people are sitting on their brains and sleeping because they're sure slipping by a lot of things that should go up for discussion. Nothing should be presented to us without discussion.
Ma'am, that's the question that we've had. I've asked it. I know Senator Joe Robach has asked this. What about a referendum?
Well, and the caller, it's a very fair question, very fair comments. Referendum, and Joe Robach should know it. This is for state legislative issue. This is a state issue. It's not a local issue. And I remember when I think Van White issued a press conference on a legal issue. If you went down one paragraph on a law, you would see that the school district is not an entity of city government. It's a state function. There are only 2 or 3 provisions for a referendum. So a referendum is not required for this. And what I think the point is, and I would say to the caller, as opposed to, and it is, getting involved just to this drawn-out political campaign, what we're asking for is a test for what would be 5 years that we could see, and if in the end, if the system improves, if the success of children improves far more than this, because, ma'am, I agree with you, children are pawns. I found, in the school district in the past, for a $700+ million budget, if they cut or propose to cut any part of that budget, often what gets cut, you see music and art. All these things are so important for kids. I would venture there are 1,000 other ways to cut without impacting children. So I do think they often become pawns in this issue. I will agree that here's the issue that I think is most viral with some. If you follow New York's role and their model, if you abolish an elected board, yes, there are 7 people on the board who were elected, and how that changes, I think, has yet to be determined at the state level. So in essence, there would be 7 less elected officials in this city. There would be an appointed board that would involve parents, community leaders, neighborhood leaders, and others. But I would have to say this: the elected numbers would be reduced. But it's not taking away constitutional rights because there are 10 people you'd still vote for. And I would say if we ever consolidate with the county, if the city and county ever consolidate into a metro government years down the road, which has been talked about in the past, you have to combine the county legislature and city council. So there'd be probably less positions. You still have a vote, but there'd be less positions. You reduce positions. If Penfield and Pittsford and Webster combine towns or school districts, the same thing. Any kind of consolidation, there would be less. But it does not take away representation. But I think the issue, and I have, believe it or not, I do have some friends on a school board. People who are friends who have raised this issue of, it's a financial hit for them. They ran for office. I think that I agree with the emotional side of that. But we talked about this recently in a meeting I had. I don't know what the path will be from the state, whether it's abolished all at once, it's abolished over time. I think that is why, it's tough to answer questions without seeing what the legislation says. And I can say one thing: Dave Gant, who, one of the leaders of the opponents to this change, questioned Dave Gant's credentials and impact on this community. Dave Gant never supported this fully before. I think he would never have just jumped up and said this. I think he, like many others, are so tired of the success that I believe we can have here. Dave is very sensitive to the issue of elected officials. Joe Morelli is too. And I listened to the caller. Joe Morelli did cancel a volunteer recognition dinner because he did not want to have the volunteers have to walk through a picket line and feel uncomfortable. These are people who are being honored. So